Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I want to talk about the video game industry. It's been a little while since I've really sat down and just given my thoughts on, the state of things and all that. The last couple of years have been difficult. I think the biggest thing that's been happening alongside, games coming out is the state of the industry in terms of layoffs, and there has been an insane amount of layoffs. So just back in I think it was May, Eurogamer did an article that already in 2024, just from May, that 10,000 jobs had already been lost. I think it's double that since 2023 when it all sort of kicked off to now, and we're in at the time of recording, this is September, so it's like, wow, that is an insane amount of I know it's not just the video game industry, there's other industries, all the adjacent stuff as well going on, in the tech industry and people losing their jobs and whatnot. But it's mad when you have a mass exodus of companies that have overfunded, or game development being that much more expensive these days. It is kind of crazy. I think the one that gets me the most is when the guy at Epic laid people off from the Fortnite team, and it's or I assume from the Fortnite team, and that game's probably racking in a ton of money. And the fact that a company that size with a game that is that popular, still having to make layoffs. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes there is going to be bloat. There's still the leftover from COVID and some jobs, but not to 20,000 plus jobs or near 20,000 plus jobs. That's insane to me. But it is. I wanted to kind of reflect on that because it's not all doom and gloom, and we'll get to some of the stuff that's coming out later in the year, but I want to kind of look at the big three. I want to look at Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, and kind of where they are, because they're all in sort of... Microsoft and Sony keep seeming to have these blunders, and Nintendo's kind of doing their own thing. They're sort of hanging on until this next announcement. Everyone's waiting for their announcement of the next console, but let's go through these big guys, because the state of the third-party industry, let's say this, there are still games coming out. There are plenty of indie games coming out that are succeeding. There are plenty of first-party games that are succeeding. Third-party games are succeeding. So it's not all doom and gloom. But it is hard to ignore the job losses and games shutting down and all that sort of stuff. We're in a weird spot at the moment. But let's start with Microsoft. Look at where they're at. Right. Start with the most negative thing. Since buying Activision Blizzard, Microsoft have apparently laid off 2,250 jobs, and at the time of this recording, while I was doing a quick bit scout around for this, they laid off 650 more people. So I don't know if that's included into this number or more, but as of right now, if you go and look, or this will probably be a few days afterwards, but you will have probably heard that Microsoft have laid off more staff since then. So they have been doing a lot of that, which is crazy after spending that kind of money. And that's a real spanner in them, and it's something that I think Microsoft need to understand. This is an awful look, and this isn't something that's going to go away anytime soon. I say what you want about Phil Spencer. I do think he is the right man for the job in a lot of ways. He's not perfect by far, and I think that Microsoft needs some wins, because they've had some good games in recent memory. Hi-Fi Rush, but then they shut down that studio. Luckily they've been rebought now by somebody else. There's these things where they've had these good games come to their consoles or to their system or to Game Pass, things like that. Starfield was fairly popular, whatnot. We've got a big game coming out at the end of the year. They've got Indiana Jones, and then next year, I think it's February now, we've got Avowed. And they've also got Stalker 2 coming out, and they've also got Microsoft Flight Simulator, and they've also got Call of Duty. So it's not that Microsoft, from basically now until the end of the year, Microsoft have got a big selection, or a selection of games. I won't say big, a selection of games, excluding Avowed because that's February. But Microsoft Flight Simulator, massively popular. Stalker 2 is a game that has unfortunately been in development hell because of the war in Ukraine, but seems to be going over really well, so that'll do well for them. Indiana Jones genuinely looks really good, and that's a game that I'm interested in. And then obviously they own COD. And then Avowed also looks good. So it's not like they haven't got games, but it's taken them so long from all these purchases. 2023 was kind of the start of it. 2024, we're starting to see more of these games come through. Avowed's next year. Hopefully Fable will be next year. Perfect Dark looked really good. They've got stuff that looks good, but they just need to start getting some of this stuff out the door, to really do it. But they're in a weird situation because they are in a spotlight now where they are sending exclusives to other consoles, which is really upsetting the fans. I kind of get why. They're trying to make more money. Exclusives are one of those things that if you're winning, if you're on top, then you don't. Why would you outsource them? They're not. They've had almost. They're a couple mil off, but almost 30 million sales for consoles, which you can scoff at, I guess. But still, 30 million. That's still a lot. It's a lot more than I thought it was. But like 30 million console sales, they'll probably hit. It's about 28 point something, but they'll probably hit 30 over the holidays, I reckon. Especially the Series S as being a much cheaper console and a small little box to put under the TV. I genuinely think that will help boost the sales. And get them up to about 30 mil over Christmas. But, you know, they're not, compared to Sony, it's 2 to 1. Like, you know, the PlayStation's almost at 60 mil. So they're obviously losing on that front, if you will. But if they continuously keep putting out, like, with these games that are coming out that look like they're going to be decent quality, that will bring more people in. They'll be the sort of games that people go, hey, I need to buy this. Obviously not PC players, because PC players are going to be like, well, I can get these games on PC. But for those people that have a console, hopefully... Because you never want things to fail. You want things to succeed. I want to see Stalker 2 do well. You know, despite all the crap they've been through. Indiana Jones hopefully will be a really good, like licensed video game. Avowed genuinely looks fun and the combat and stuff, and it looked a bit flimsy, but like the ideas and stuff in it. Flight Sim is just like one of those games. It's not for me, as neither is COD. But like you want these things to do well. You want people, consumers to have stuff to play and to enjoy, without being nickel and dimed completely. And obviously, a lot of they've been making some really bad decisions with Game Pass. So they've got a lot of negative press at the moment, and they need to shift it by putting out good quality games that people go, hey, this is the sort of thing you buy their console for, or you get Game Pass for if you get that certain level of it. They are in a weird spot. I don't think it's all like they're going to die or anything like that. I don't think they're going away anytime soon. I think with the lineup of games that they've got, like Gears of War's coming, they've got Perfect Dark, stuff like that. These things will help them boost and do better, but they need to start putting a game out every 3 months at least every 3 months, like something decent. They've obviously just had Age of Mythology Retold come out, which has got is being very well heralded from what I know. People are really liking it. And that's great, especially for the PC audience. That's a great game for them to play. I get it. It's a remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, but it's still a positive thing, and they need to keep that positive ball rolling. All right, you've put this out. What's the next positive thing? It's either Stalker or Flight Sim, one of those two. I think they're in October, November sort of time, and obviously Call of Duty. But you need to keep that positive ball rolling with things, and I think now is the time to do it. You've got Age of Mythology out. People like it. What else are you going to offer that's going to allow people to enjoy your content? Don't get me wrong, the upping the price of console Game Pass and stuff sucks. The tiers of that suck. But if you can get more positive than negative press, then at least you're doing something better than you currently are. But right now there's a lot of negativity around Microsoft. Moving on over to Sony then. Sony are in a weird spot, because the thing about Sony for me is that their exclusives, like, at least with Microsoft, there's been a line of like, here we're making all this stuff. Sony have been very silent about what they're working on or what's coming out. And quite frankly, like, no matter how you feel about the PlayStation 5, if you love it or hate it, the lack of their exclusives, or at least announcements or what's coming up, is fucking awful. Like, there's the one thing I'll give Microsoft credit for. At least you've got some kind of idea of what's coming out, even if it's over the next couple of years. Sony, there's no clue, right? We've got a couple of games that have come out recently, but then what? Nothing. They need to make some announcements. Apparently there's stuff coming, but like, I think they've gotten really bad at like talking to their consumers about what's coming, why you should buy one if you don't own one, and what's coming later down the line. You can't, like, don't get me wrong, a lot of people will buy their console because of things like Call of Duty, FIFA, or EA FC now. The sports games, there's certain things that people buy these consoles for because they want to play with their friends. But to buy a PS5, there aren't that many exclusives that would make me buy a console. Maybe the Demon's Souls remake, Astro Bot obviously coming out. There's a couple of games on this console, but there's not a lot. There's really not a lot. And I'm genuinely shocked that seems to have slowed down a lot in the last couple of years. And I think that's awful. I think it's really detrimental to Sony. I know that Death Stranding 2's coming at some point. There's the odd thing here and there, but not a lot. Sony sit on quite a lot of IP. They need to make some big announcements of stuff that's coming throughout 2025 and 2026, really. But they're not doing that, and it's I think it's, you know, maybe not necessarily harmful to them, but I think it's really crap, or really crappy that they're not, you know, push. I know they've got the Wolverine game as well, but just give people some idea of what's coming, like, you know. But Sony have had their own set of issues this year and their own set of bad PR, in the sense you've got the whole Helldivers 2 debacle that happened this year, with them basically being like, yeah, we don't have to worry about PSN, but actually you do have to worry about it, and then selling that product in countries that can't have PSN. That was a big boo-boo. I mean, obviously they backtracked on it and it all got sorted, but that was a big boo-boo on their side. And then obviously recently you've had the whole Concord failure, and I did a whole video talking about live service and games as services and like kind of where we are with that. That's insane, the fact that game got taken offline like 2 weeks, you know. But then they had like the win with Astrobot, and like Astrobot genuinely looks like a great game, and I hope that Sony realizes like you can have a 3D platformer, you know, something that's cute and cartoony. Not all of your games need to be these realistic games. Have something that looks really nice, but it is a bit more childlike. You had Sackboy's Big Adventure at some point. You've got games under your belt, you know. You used to have Crash and Spyro, and you know you put out Ratchet and Clank. But what about your other franchises? And this is the thing that frustrates me, is that Sony has some really cool IP that are a little bit more family friendly and not all like, you know, 15 plus kind of thing. I just wish they'd utilize it more often. But like clearly nobody wants to make those games. They want to make the over shoulder kind of like God of War and the open world sort of games of Horizon and stuff, and they're fantastic games, but yeah, mix it up a bit. Not everything has to be super realistic. You know, I'd be curious to see how well Astrobot sells. And then we had the kick in the teeth of the PlayStation 5 Pro being £700. Doesn't come with a disc drive, doesn't come with a stand. Those are extra costs on it. Like, there's no point beating around the bush with this. This is just outrageous. This is a disgusting price for a console. There's no way. Like, I think £500 for a console is already too much. Like, my limit is probably about £400. And even that I don't like, which, like, because I've been buying Nintendo products for a long time. So the Wii was £180 at, you know, the Wii U was about $250, the Switch was like $270. You know, I would hope that the Switch, the successor or whatever, isn't going to be that expensive, $350 at max. But like, I can't get over why Sony thinks, and again, like it's the arrogant Sony of the PS3 era returning, but £700 for a console with no disc drive. Yes, some people aren't going to care. Yes, it is a specialist system because it's designed to be, you know, aimed at as a super premium price. But my God, like, that's just, I don't want, you know, I don't want things to fail because obviously the people that work on it, but I don't want people to pre-order this. I don't want people to buy this to show that £700 is just too much. That's not going to happen, because I have no doubt that as soon as this thing goes up online, either scalpers will get it or other people will get it, and you'll have a bunch of YouTubers that get it and use it as like part of their, you know, everyday thing. But like as a regular customer or whatever, like, this just not, there is no need to charge that much. If you're charging that much, then whatever you're doing to this Pro, which is increasing the GPU and all these other bits and bobs, you need to find a cheaper way of doing it. Like, I know that I'm a big Nintendo boy, right? But I try to like enjoy all the consoles. You know, I have a 360, I have classic PlayStation consoles. There is no way that I would ever buy anything for £700. Like, nothing. There is nothing that any of these companies could make. Even Nintendo, if they were like, "Oh, our next console is going to be like, you know, £700," I'm like, I'm out. I'm not, no chance. This is getting into, you know, PC spec territory. Maybe not quite that low anymore. You're probably looking at more sort of £800-900 at a lower end one. Because that's kind of how I make my PCs. I'd sort of do them for about that price. I'd rather just do that than buy a PlayStation. You know, and that's somebody who actually does enjoy building PCs and things. But the fact that it's on top of no disc drive, like, that's insane to me. How could you not include a disc drive? You know, and they're like, oh, you know, not many people make optical drives anymore. But yeah, but you've got getting less than getting like just a base PS5. All right, the games might run a bit better, but you can't play physical media. Oh yeah, buy this add-on. No. No, it's crazy. You know, I will say, obviously, they've almost sold 60 million consoles, which is insane, which is very good. So the PS5's obviously gone down very well, but I just, yeah, Sony's in a weird place, man. They've got their own problems with PR, and you know, it's just, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how they go. I hope that they just start announcing games, stuff that's coming in 2025. I don't know if that Wolverine game comes out next year, but yeah, they really need to, and they can't just rely on something like GTA 6. Let's say GTA 6 comes out in like 2025. That doesn't count as like, oh, a big PlayStation game. Like, third-party games don't count, you know, especially if you're someone who's got a PC anyway. You're gonna probably buy it on PC, but like ultimately, like when games, I don't buy a system to play third-party games. I do that on any system basically. So yeah, and then there's Nintendo, and Nintendo, you know, apart from their usual shittiness that they tend to do with various things, there's not a lot going on with them other than, you know, they've got games coming out, Mario and Luigi Brothership, you know, smaller projects it would seem like. Mario Party Jamboree doesn't look like a small project. You've got Zelda coming out this month. They've got games coming out, you know, just all the way up until early next year. But everyone's expecting this new announcement for this new system. It's going to happen in the next 6 months. I'm pretty confident of that. But Nintendo, you know, their hardware is starting to show their age even more so. It's been starting to show its age for the last couple of years, but I think at the moment it's really starting to grate on people. There's not much I can say about them because really they're just chugging along. They might not be making the sales at the numbers they wanted to. They've got a Hyrule Switch Lite coming out for this new Zelda game, but Nintendo are in a place where, you know, they're just sort of plodding along. They've done incredibly well this time with this system. You know, they're ramping things up for this sequel system, whether will be a Switch again or whether it'll be something else. Like, they're in a position, and people are just waiting on them to show something off at this point. You know, impatiently, I would say, but we are just waiting to see what Nintendo are going to do. You know, they don't have to spend an insane amount of money to make their games good. They probably will do, and they're probably learning that process now. You know, that's the one thing I'm a little bit worried about, is their game prices going up for this next system. You know, because games are expensive. But if it's backwards compatible, that would help me a lot. But yeah, I don't really have a lot to say on Nintendo. Then, you know, we're just kind of waiting to see what their new system is, what they do well, what they don't do well. You know, they've done well in some aspects this generation. So, but compared to the other two, I know they're doing their own thing. They don't really compare to Sony and Microsoft. They're doing all right. You know. So you either like Nintendo or you don't. It's like any of these companies. They can either do really good things or they can be an absolute pain in the ass. So, but that's kind of like my thoughts on those three. But I want to leave this video on a positive note and just bring up a few games that I am looking forward to. Right, there are games coming out from all places at the moment. You know, we've got the recently released Warhammer Space Marine 2, sorry, and that game apparently is phenomenal. And that's awesome to see. Like, there are some really good Warhammer games. I'm glad this game is doing well. We've just had the recently released Astro Bot, something that Sony desperately needed, and apparently that's a fantastic game. There's things like the Indiana Jones game coming out that Microsoft are releasing in December. You know, I might not play it in December, but that's a game I'm genuinely excited for. It looks really good. And then there's also, like, from Nintendo's front, you know, the place where I play a lot of my games, Mario and Luigi Brothership. Really excited for that. There's Super Mario Party Jamboree. I love Mario Party. It's a great social game. There's the new Zelda coming up, you know. Then there's things on PC. There's Commandos Origins, a game I cannot wait to get my hands on. I love Commandos. So and that's just a few games. There's hardly anything I've touched on, right? There's a ton of like third-party games coming, collections, remakes, remasters, you know, all this sort of stuff. So, you know, the game industry isn't like dead. You know, it's not crashing, I don't think, by any means. It's in a very precarious place in terms of people's livelihood, right? People's jobs. But there are still a lot of people out there, a lot of amazing devs making incredible games, you know, and just like, as someone who is just an average gamer who enjoys a lot of different games, and yeah, I know I have a good old moan about certain genres, but like, you know, just a big thank you to everybody that, you know, is working their asses off to put these great games out. You know, I know that people sometimes shit on certain games or, you know, pull those positives or negatives from it, but game development's difficult. It takes a long time. You know, some companies are just very good at streamlining their process and things like that. But for all the devs out there that are putting out great games, you know, big thank you from me. Just because I'm just, you know, I love this this creative industry. I love seeing these different experiences that I get to play. You know, and this year might not have put out like the big games that you expect all the time. I've played some fantastic games this year. You know, I got a Mario vs Donkey Kong remake. Nobody talks about that game. That game's fantastic. You know, I got that. I got the Paper Mario remake. We've got, like I said, Commandos Origin. Like, oh my god, a new game in the Commandos. Holy shit! Like, so much stuff. You know, I will do a whole, at the end of the year, I'll do a usual chat talk about 2024 in terms of the games that came out and I played. But man, you know, all the negativity going around, I just want to say, like, there are amazing games coming out all the time. Probably too many amazing games coming out all the time. Never enough time to play all of them, but genuinely excited for what's to come. You know, I'm still working for my back catalogue of games, the things that I'm finally experiencing for the first time or have played before. And the game industry, while it is in a sticky situation, I am very happy with, you know, what developers are doing, and God bless them for doing what they're doing, because it's hard work. But yeah, I just want to do this. I think it's been a while since I've really got a chance to just sit and talk. I want to collect in my thoughts a little bit to talk about the games industry, but there you go. Hopefully this has been interesting to some people. So that's going to do it for me today then, guys. Thank you very much for listening, as always. If you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, then hit subscribe. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description, as always. And until next video, I will see you then.